Oh, I fucked it up. Is the one you see Sun?
Yes.
Oh, it's just spam.
I'm good.
Good whenever. Please try to be clear.
Bing means soldier. These are lines at the bottom are two hands holding it as a weapon. This character first stood for ping pong means ping pong is individual characters produce the sound of king upon the noise explosion and gunshots. Cho means a man. There's a funeral mound. The symphony where automatic parade. The battlefield deafening explosion and marches soldier in a series of hills where buried bodies fly, all encapsulating just 4 characters. Decipher the resolution. 我不知道在说什么，但是我会说中文，所以没关系。Racial organisms part and parcel. The Western Sonic color on this label is anarchy and barbaric noisy. The notion of musical sounds that construct the sonic markers of the idea of backward east. Paradoxically, the Western specters maintain a feeling attachment to the Oriental, other desire to civilize those lacking morality and manifested in Western harmonies that impose on Chinese sources creates racialized notion of mild and docile the Chinese other garment. 22. One of the contributing factors is China's market race, where unmusical sounds are wholly uncivilized and barbaric, demonstrating the difference between the English and the other sonic market that defines the Chinese person only. Complication of noising and present noising to us. The reason Western rejected the Eastern sound, keep Eastern culture is that creation of the other easier for construct to identify work that render East as unachievable for the consuming grades of Western spectating manipulating Western harmonies. Composers were able to undermine identities of Chinese forces themselves assigning for racialized identity to them being not Thursday in Chinese relating to the sonic marker exotic sounding name such as spicy and the vandalized Chinese due to inability to the English language linguistic differentiation serve to portray Chinese and lacking morality and untrustworthy sonic marker helps cement the racial hierarchies and pricing the Oriental as inherently inferior to Englishmen, and this form of linguistic purism produces effective relations that militarize the future. The language, the racialization regulation of sonics mobilizes endless geopolitical conflict. It is charged out from making competing in political imaginations that are premised on subcultural resistance. Kaliski 22 state develops technologies to produce effective relationship workers enter combat towards oppositional political features that affect the dimensional routines of militarization, subculture, resistance permeate in political life. In addition, is mobilized to either towards the same militarization or political imagination that take the attention between competing Islamic forces. Deployment sound takes on a political dimension and potential mobilized bodies. Sound is a battleground for constrained traditional battlefield war fall under effective manipulation and consumed by revolution effectively objecting to linguistic imperialism and objectivity and the corporate effects as well. The relation to resist qualification exists in a constitutional transmission that exists prior to the exterior consciousness of audition and cognition and some key cognitive activity or construct our realities constantly new sensory data, and we learn from our communication between the body and the external world, fitting cognition constantly in the real-time sounds solidifying emerges the collective spaces and heard by many while belonging to see no one, and control over linguistics is a form of restoration that semiotically shifts one's culture and cultivates a military subjectivities. Language has become an essential warfighting skill that modulates discouragement meaning and rationalizes warfare. Advanced necropolitics to appeal to reject the objective observations that take a stance on epistemic superiority. Macintosh 21 military personnel, socialist linguistic reform identity, semiotic structure frameworks, and recondition of in some cases, kinds of forms of transformation effects of some ontologically bounded with action, actualization, and specialized in lexicon members, technologies, and advancing neo-necropolitics, and general register makes prospect of masculinity unthinkable for decision makers, military identity, signal epistemic superiority, wartime communication planes, and myth of monolingual English, translator media system, adopting positions, semiotic choices, transfer objectivity, selectively appropriate events, language is essential warfighting skill, mastered by controlling native interpreters, secondary strategy, safety for fantasy, idealized interpreter who result the exact equivalents, and the imperative for internalized social ideals that expense of what is in culture independently culminates in psychic violence and through racial exclusion. Angel 19, these centers subject to organize and take one for embodiment feelings of panic, premature death, panic attacks, or headache killer, and anxiety, including heart action, trauma, for racial subjectivity through internalized social ideals, and those subjects develops their own repetition and feels ideal oneness and constitute one aspect of racial melancholy, sucking social process of historical emergence of liberalism, and reconfiguring sucking locks racial allocation, many race, and disposition, interest in languages, regulation, and self-explaining attacks against the self, and gender personality and work to act as the affect without proper object, bracketing out this fact of this question and problem solved, irrationally separates from mind from body, the seeing with a technocratic force, sacrificing. So specifically, debate exemplifies these forms of mechanization by presenting an artificial cleavage between reality and gaming, which is incoherent to a large part of the community. You should refuse imposition, self-governing tyranny that modulates by humans, the Chinese debater. Fickle 19, pluralism attributes understood the criticism, the playfulness, so that they can play so seriously. You can never be just a game. Orientalism, complicit reproduction, East-West relationship gives you kind of real life, or you capture the red rhetorical force and describe racialized bodies in relation to the game, and all means have been marked off as beforehand illusion display framed in categorical terms of boundary, drawing exercise ordinary reality and extraordinary rule-making exercise rational, but internally coaching a set of rules, self-governing tyranny, a matter of all contradictions, and matter that simplified the racial redoing and quantities. A machine process called play is enclosed. It's not what it is. It's reality. Simply saying it's just a game. Also, playing in the one you see is mistranslation of the challenges. What's the question of empire? Only the alternative reading of the resolution mediated by embodied experiences in our culture can expose to imperial nation geopolitical polarization. Be less interested in accuracy, more interested in what performance make evidence. Camp 21. Astrology fortify empire's country power rather than genuine picture of the complex relationship between racial and national identity. Question 7 gender critiquing mistranslation that fails empire. Exposing people's equation that hardly geopolitical politics, refusal equal intervention, and showing Kim's now participating constructing the Asian American or easily defensible translation, not simply a neutral linguist that had to interpreting words about a political act as consequences in empire's memory making machine. A skewed correlation between political and military actions that government imperialism, new translate against the empire, the Korean War, and this translated forgotten war, civil war, rather than galvanized by the U.S. fear of larger company, justified a smaller one, overlooked the political motivated conflict act as translation. Equation of the modern war is necessary against communism. If regulates the empire history, translate against the empire will need to draw necessary connection between history and identities, Asian, accepting fundamental features of her species, claiming strict English use as a motive of critique or refusal to perform acts of defiance against history choice. Less translation, less interested in accuracy, more interested in what performances make evident, and prefer embodied Asian stories, newspaper headlines over shoot the push and shed the stereotype. Review 22 Chen's manifest of American dream invokes wholesome masculinity, the official narrative to illustrate successful integration, ACJ's position, and patriotic indignation. The project was imbuing Chen's love with value, emphasizing his normative real expansion and savory act of moralizing Fitz and Chen, and Chen is for some time to Chen's excessive heteronormativity is punched from the official narrative. Chen did little to de-escalate the fight during the first one, shining let's fight some more, and reiterating the monolingual thing of the systematized inequality as assigned under 18 to preserve the status quo limits participation rational experimental because of presumption that circular solution rely existing definition iterative approaches to refining establish the powerful limited only a specialized methodology to provide cover that make processes solved by social structure that seem technical only from description design who understanding must first pass as a gatekeeper meanings limited to the relationship to imagine design space or meaning communities are significant for your intervention are gone. The method is illustrated as certainty. Let me drink water real quick. Okay. Okay.
Sorry, cross time now. I'll go app.
The app is topical in our form of affirmation against sonics is a form of reducing military presence, and that is good.
I'm pretty sure. I guess sort of the reading the lines at the top. Do they have any sort of implication?
Yeah, it's how we have interpreted what military presence mean. We have said that military presence is a symphony of war, and the way that sonics affects the way that we had modern warfare now.
Okay, sure. I guess does the app define the sort of hypothetical implementation of a policy action?
Of a policy action, no. We have said that the 1AC defends removing sonics as a form of warfare, and that is good.
Okay. I guess sort of definitions. Is there any like link or any like way we can like verify sort of the definitions?
Like of like being?
Or sort of your definition of the resolution. I guess is there sort of any definitive
Like
way
of
to
Mandarin?
interpret it? Yes.
Like, we don't have a link that says this is what this word means, but I think you should trust me on this one.
Okay. I guess the Macintosh evidence, I guess where does it necessarily talk about sort of linguistics being sort of utilized in military conflicts?
Yeah. Here. Advancing the state's necropolitical agenda, register must make the process of mass killing thinkable for decision makers. Military identities take on epistemic superiority that creates wartime communications that play into the myth of a monolingual nation. That would be the one.
Okay, sure, I guess. I guess the fickle evidence, like specific to debate, I guess where in the fickle evidence is it like oriented towards debate or can be utilized to like?
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be debate. It just says that it is criticism of the idea that debate is solely a game, and that is bad.
Okay, sure. I guess what is the broadline for app solvency, i.e., like how many times do you have to read the app? Or
We are topical.
Okay, sure. But I guess like what? So I guess the implementation of the app is what generates its offense.
Yeah.
And nothing else.
Yeah, the 1AC is good, and the reading of the 1AC is good for our sort of activities. That is how we refuse the sonic color line.
Okay, sure. I guess sort of Asian stories. Why did they like performatively gain offense from the app?
Wait, are you talking about the reviewer card?
Yes.
The reviewer card just says that we should prefer stories are embodied to a person because mass media will paper over truth. In a world where commodification is terminally inevitable, because that is what will happen by news and headlines, then we should like refer to people using their own stories for their own gain.
Okay, sure. don't think I have any questions. I'll start to
I negate new abstract to find negative terrorism and lineage sound like 8 points. We didn't have 30 minutes to go specifics to your app. 2 points to your app has any risk of linking to the genetic issue. Lose justified MC theory first. 8 points out is first on the strategy premise law. And then just goes to app. 8 points key testing first. Capitalism causes massive violence and inevitable extinction of fundamental tasks, developing tools for organization and tactics to bring about the revolution Escalante 19. The rules in the dire state of capitalist production, drop in economic crisis, leave some bring of extinction, government turning, the vacillator to asteroids and the most modernized efforts, the whole country to destroy it, in bitter false feels the need for revolutionary movement has been so far clear that people against capitalism and imperialism are the problem. The most united better world having no way can actually unite around the masses. One is if you would they fight back against the question of Marxist epistemology is about possibility. Other resolution movements have been this possibility. Labor competition was the foundation of exploitation. Our language games are meaningless and see the question to neoliberal and send Juan Jr. to 91. Language games about intellectuality of power, but against the strategies of positionality. Americans are rejected by state origin, exclusions in the particularistic agendas, and the molecular micropolitics of marginality. The claims that represent the truth based on experiences of the cocaine alterations that represent themselves in as self-conscious members of the as members. The experience of the theory of representation that represents homogeneous economics, the foundation of the subject ordeal to struggling by derived by personal testimony was started by the individual sacrifice to better the ethos of a business society synthesis of the point and can contain the activities of employment or result through individual efforts, what is not a refurbished on market center society. This process is what could be harnessed in the prevailing structure and what needs a more gestural structure, but executed with such a form to non-limited rational form, hierarchical and indigenous categories and make people very evidence is accomplished by the articulation of hegemonic creating of vocals, emphasis of liberalism, reservation shared by the American observer, and such liberal hybrid talking, next outburst to counter hegemonic empiricism and experiments carried out by the narrative of product. The American Jew is vindicated the political economic converse commodities that can return his coolies, the free enterprises force by the opening of open wars. I cannot understand any Americans by good comprehension that capitalist world system that being pushed by population by the colonists where cheap capital is needed, the underpinnings of population to contribute food boundaries, so why cheap labor is what self-reaction is what included. Global capitalism demands universal targets to organize unified love, focus on the particularity, self and neoliberal folk politics. Williams and Circuit 15. Well, the particular has found home in the future, the improvement of the material terms of the right word defined by the direction and usually refers by neoliberalism, the folk-based politics and the business, found accept new rules and comments, should the written again that should replace another posturing resistance, follow progressive position, non-Western society, need of political progress, history, not need to be relied upon any follow any predetermined consumption and capitalist modernity, which are by imperialism towards accumulation, new visions of futures are essence over the left and the absence, there can only be reactivity, little progress and a mentality that progress hasn't been understood as a fiction, alliance to reforms and the truth, progress is a political struggle following new natural tendencies, so finding the capitalism as impossible because politics must be constructed new capitalism expansion of universal paper because anything else can be a competing universal will be similar against the particularism of even universals and modernism. There appears to be no solidarity in the absence of some common factor. The universal operates as a transcendent one, risk licensing all oppressions and the inevitable consequence of plural forms of the universal must integrate difference rather than erasing the universals in place of the hegemonic particulars occupied. Vote negative for communist organizing that requires collective struggle and the establishment of central organization to inform both theory and practice. Code 18. Loose connections and assume that a market economy without political organizing only need to stay committed leads the sectarianism behind it. Class politics is not render gender, race, and impartial agencies of supplementation and feminist and race and equitable circles on the basis of which class circles must launch racial challenges and depend on the people efficacy requiring quality of members, responsibility, feasibility, and accountability. You have to reality, PKK establish a direct democratic council and change based on the people. These will happening if it wasn't for vanguard, the producer according to the people that are planning, and these would be possible without centralization. Democracy requires the structures to be truly transplanted, urban, romanticizing particular struggles. Not really has any good critical engagement in form theory and improves practice too. Information is displaced of any content of the app is overcoded by the hyperreal form of communication attributed to the 18. Oversaturation is characterized by viral dissemination and consumption. Is there little less than the reality is present or a sense for when we kill point of real option, we actually point to hyper-real disperse the real simple overcome looking at conflicting truths, the exacerbate implosion and uniformity of truths that was needed by the vulnerability to alternate forms of reality. This attempt to instigate truth ends to energize the opposition. Third, investment into the universities is tool of speedily to move for a transparent discussion about revolutionary practice, mystifies the reliance on the highly exclusive and unethical technologies of the university. Hooves 10. Crisis relies on the university to renew the beta mobilization done through the technology participation is reliance on the activism for the openness for the university renders individuals targets of violence to their promise of radical alternative because of their own critique of speedialism of the likewise and the validation of technology's emphasis on the aspect of activity and academia such discourses suppressive violent history that foster oppressive and collective to the meet the radical difference of increasing urgency no interest in crisis paradoxically leads to acceleration of oppression. There's a form of content distinction when we say matters much less than where we and how we say it. Book 81. The university is in rules, not alternative to any of blanket powers that makes these one effect has become ungraspable, reinjects us into losing all legitimacy. The system puts an end to the challenges to the end and the total derailment of the university by time discussion. Sonics are not a revolution is an advertisement. They attempt to trade aesthetics for the value to the product of commercialization that trades value for revolution as far as the commercial potential. Book 93. The argument that this ability to symbolic fact of workers of our underlying understanding. Russian mental value art has been replaced by various other celebrations, performance, aesthetic notions, society, given rise to original aestheticization of culture, that primitive representation taken on things to the media, and everything is now created was great undertaking in the commercialization of the world, the great undertaking also on how to be the aesthetification of the world we're witnessing as the everything, the media or images. Turns case. Like I'm going on 22. That's how it becomes something more than a flow to be on merging up its phenomenon. The university wants the impact of research does not matter that when so much that happens, circulated impacts the words different, and the funding everything flows in the same way of relations. The one sees value stand out as responding to and the value is a hollow validation that happens on political energy and goes into the oppressive case of the academy vote next to decline affirmation, Phillips 99. Concern centers around the role of the critique position in communities as objects of investigation and critiques and activating agitated discourse becomes instrumentalistic. Just about allied communities need to be academic critique contradictions not only disrupted nature one fails adequate by taking the speaks out of the streets and studying in the classroom, treating it as a protest, not object for analysis, but in the academy cut the rest of the card. The only option is refusal opposite to 22. The good average refusal powers of the city abolish violently into refusal into the dominating exercise powers, sovereignty in the city may 60 over time almost in the 90s, and the 70s to agonists of power the values era revolution toward themselves.
And skip the presumption.
The absent remembering of history through the trauma glosses over the transgenerational implications of nationalism, the replicated neoliberalism, capitalism, the affirmative alliance himself in the continued domination of neoliberal capitalism, homophobic and racist presence in the nation diaspora change 12. Using the political transcendence, using political over into the over-embodiment of the fantasy of liberal censorship, which is overcreated in the shared human condition, covering the monstrous humanity which a nation sees wills in the power of organized and seem realization, revolutionization, runs two major classes, first model minorities, and second, the perpetual foreignness of the perpetual weakness and idealizing great version of useless one is both traumatized and one choice of satisfaction, utterly aside, and cut the rest of the card. I'm going down to the scope and evidence. The role of judges to be impartial adjudicated the activity mandated by the competition and preserves institutional support scope and 21. Two models. First, the judge alternatively the judge advocate the most constitutive of the debate as the context of these settlements are intrinsic to the debater's definition and competitive tournaments that would be impossible absent that institutional motivation stems from the profit and procedure from competitive success of activities necessary for basketball score the determinant of the flow is possibility for the debate be absent educational and cut the rest of the card. Treating the judge as an educator is bad. It causes judge intervention, ideological dogmatism that places an unfair burden on judges. Scope of 21. The educator models define deviating from a floating invalid the arguments about arguments disregarding fairness, integrity, use evaluation of the branch of intervention is disrespectful, work of students with a bad for the base subject as a topic of van case or gene falsities, racist falsities, ideological documentation teaches students and judges are the understanding of world's correct and based on ideological facets and examples include religious persecution and judicial race and judges said the educator model places an unfair burden on judges. Also in America.
I don't need a more.
Judges? Yeah.
Right, so cross count. Belong wasn't read, right?
No.
Okay. Let's talk about the links to capitalism. Is it just trauma and language is bad? Are those the only links to cap?
Okay, so our sort of argument is like the way in which you've expressed your language ends as like a sign of revolution like as sort of a referendum on like freeing yourselves from labor exploitation, inevitably fail and re-entrench capitalism. The evidence specifically talks about how language games sort of supposedly balance intertextual use of power, but
Can you point me a line in the 1AC that is a language game that cannot dismantle capitalism?
that can't wait. Sorry, can you repeat that?
Like, point me a line in the 1AC that is a link.
Wait, I would line in the 1AC that was a link.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't like point to a specific line, but I think the use of sonics and the use of language as like a clarifying contamination to gain
so
offense.
talking in a different language is a link to cap?
Okay, that's not necessarily the argument. The argument is sort of using language as a method for revolution just re-entrenches labor.
Okay, so using language and persuading people why the 1AC's method is good links into cap?
Not
Like
necessarily.
what is the alternative? What is the if the link is just speaking is bad? What is the alternative to
Okay,
speaking?
I think this misunderstands what the link is. Like the evidence says specifically sort of using sort of language games as sort of
What is a
intellectual
language
power.
game?
Sort of a language game is sort of using sort of languages outside of the external scope of like what is like respected by the activity or whatever.
Well, okay, so because I spoke in Mandarin and that is not respected by the activity, that is now a language game?
That's not the argument we're making. The argument we're making is sort of trying to use sort of sonics or sort of use different forms of language as a performative piece of offense against sort of the negative is that.
The F said they're topical, you didn't, okay, this makes no sense, we'll move on. Information is dissuasive, what is the implication?
Okay, so if information is dissuasive, it's impossible to like perceive the truth value of the app and like convince anyone of its content.
If the academy is bad, why are you here?
If the academy is bad, why am I here? Because
Yeah.
debate is a game. I like it.
Debate is a game? Wait, what? So what is the difference between the F and the negative then?
There's a difference between the app and the negative. Sort of engage the academy. We're arguing sort of like validating external like political potential for the app, which is inherently like needed for sort of your ballot proximity. Like I asked you in CX2 getting any external offense outside of just sort of the implementation of the app, and you said yes, you sort of implementations of sonics. Sort of the aesthetics links is pretty good about this. It talks about how sort of trying to introduce these sort of like, these forms of like political revolution just allows them to become like co-opted and integrated within the university.
Wait, what? Okay, sure. Scopa and Beckett, why do you get to read cards cut by coaches?
Why do I have to read cards cut by coaches?
Yeah, that are like low-key racist too.
I mean, I would say cards cut by coaches aren't necessarily like horrible. I mean, it's a debate to be had, I guess. If you want to like drop the argument, it's fine. But
Will
you
you
can treat it as
defend?
an analytic.
Will you treat it as an analytic?
I mean, you can treat that as like it doesn't necessarily matter. It's just like a generic argument about sort of why like ideological dogmatism is like a resultant of
Okay,
placing the
under
judges
your,
not educated.
right, actually, sorry, that's crossing. I'm starting to prep now. Okay, stop prep, that was 26 seconds taken, I'm sending the doc. Order is Av Austin order. It's
You got it?
No, I haven't got it.
It's, yeah, it's. Oh, never mind. I replied it to it. Okay, sorry. I replied it to a different one. Now they all got a new layer. You guys. While we're waiting, like 3 more seconds of break, is anything accepted?
Is anything accepted?
30 seconds.
Is it supposed to be the same doc, just up at the bottom?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm good.
I'm not.
Alright.
Still not. No, I'm good.
Imperialism is structured by sonic color and this regulation of Asian sonics is fabricated in forms of the control the construction racial other. This overcomes geopolitics, manifesting in this word intervention in regional and disability to absolve institutionalization operates against the empire by challenging false questions, these constructing tropes and limitations and rationalized warfare in the military. Future reading evidence by coaches of voting nation makes debate unethical. These people just write evidence from their own articles. This guy is also racist and justifies never voting on serve, which is the reason as to why your coach that you cut specifically from his words and reading it as an analytic solves, but you should have just read it as an analytic in the first place rather than defending the presumption argument. They have conceded the thesis about like quote key cognitive activities that construct political realities to disprove these facts, but we don't have to win it. The debate should subjectivity just that lets us keep ours. Also, second is that we are tropical. The advocates is a good idea. They have to retain T to win presumption cap framework. We get away the against a competitive sonic imaginary the performance of the all structures of the party, which means that any offense that we win is reverse causal. If we win that the one in C is racist and it proves that the party they construct is also racist too. Case that weighs on ballot proximity voting negative is not solved by extinction, but voting after those resist and linguistic imperialism, which solves cultural racial agents subjects in debate. Either all the party includes the Affirmative, which means that it was already in the Aff, or it doesn't, which means that they link to all of our offense to our permutation double bind. Either a localized instance that sonic starts global revolt, which means that they cannot solve, or it proves our methods are mutually exclusive for permutation to both sonics and benefit. Attuning the sonics key for struggles such as democratic hearing, other forms of communication with the party, which proves that sonics are inevitable. Otherwise, no shows up, which is solvency deficit. B temporary net benefit. No communist party exists now. Solve no day Alcoan, multinational Marxist organization, unites the integral part of the U.S. revolutionary movement. Alcoan was developed to struggle against Asian nationalities, not already funded Marxist, but like background party absence and genuine communist party. Alcoan as a gets campaigns apart, living conditions, getting people together, and Chinese use to educate, organize, or direct campaigns, to point immunity, join black Puerto Ricans, and black people and whites, and sees methodologies that benefit all the way to alternatives, eco-fascism. Day 20 for supremacist organization, critical capitalism, prevent eco-fascist beliefs, and only white purity can save the kind of form of study ideology embedded in movement anti-Asian minds towards capitalism. Chinese black rights to land, violate concept of orange Asian construction suggesting Asian is analogous to capital. The links, the first trauma bad argument, alternatives never talking about it. The app is not fixated on trauma, but rather is saying that we should move on from it. And the one he sees a form of rupturing that form of trauma, not just in trauma is worse because it means that we can never talk about our harms. The language argument we will impact on it. It is good. The alternative is not using language, which we have linked term because it means that no one shows to the party. The way they have to give the cross examination of the link is terrible, and it is probably fine because they see that our form of language is not normative to the debate space. It is because it is a Mandarin, which is obviously a terrible model that they propose and proves that their alternative just leads to exclusion of Asian people. Bullshit from to bars whether or not the affirmative is worse than the status quo. Their impacts are worse, not unique. So vote act because only we integrate the structures and information and language of sonics means that only the affirmative solvency. Information overload is wrong. High volume doesn't make it meaningless. Individuals and groups still accurately process and play information. For about for most the knowledge of personal view, Bolger, deeply influenced by most kind of basic analysis position, Bolger's influence on view of the masses and the Bolger's some convictions are not until inconvincing the argument of dependent illusion, rhetorical devices, deductive, but not powerful mass audience, are never broken down inside. Like to be constructed niche, Bolger's version of mass society is a view of mass media, creating a hyper reality, cut the card of hyper reality, academia. Yo, link turn it. First is that commodification is inevitable because academic markets are inevitable. They have conceded our business Chen story was favored over by white media to pursue political measures. That is the rare evidence. So the question of disinformation, whether or not I should use my interpretation and my story for my purpose, or that other people are going to use it for me, which means that our purpose is definitely better. Second is that academic science is worse. Asian storytelling enables future generations to see alternatives to white models of debate in action. Forced disappearances means that future students have no blueprint to work from and navigate hostile spaces, especially in a round that is recorded. Who is a cop and is a link to all your argument. This is not like a framework team type cop. They work for and literally are paid by the police instead of predictive policing algorithms, which means the reason why they're reading bullshit. And academia pace is a huge double turn. Larson University 18th senior planning has changed the way the organizations think about terrorism time or produce prediction. It shows that organizations and the police can benefit as part of the law enforcement organization. And who studied that exact problem permutation, do both permutation. That one new alternative can overcome the links or it can't. If it proves that only the one AC is a form of eruption linguistics, and it proves that one AC is sufficient to not overcome any of the links. They have conceded all the cards out of the one AC that says that our form of participation in the academia is something that is good, or as worse and inevitable in the way that we use our story is good, and the one AC itself is able to eruption and sound kind of like they have conceded that the debate shapes subjectivities, which means that if we win the app is a good idea, then it substantially affirms even if they win the academy argument.
opposite order.
There's the academy critique.
Sorry, the second off? Or the third off?
This second.
Okay, yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. It's fine.
Right. Yeah, I'll be like quickly like kicking out of some like stuff.
Sure.
Everyone good? Kicking out of the capitalism critique, the alternative was conditional. Also, on the scope of evidence, I'm not going to go for it, and it does not justify dropping me. Instead, just drop the argument. Instead, debaters, it does solve, since I won't get the evidence to use against you in the first place. In addition, it's probably bad to call coaches racist within the round, which just turns your impact, and I'm not going for the evidence anyway. The critique. Top level on the academy critique, they said it's app versus scope, but this is wrong. The work done below on proving that by the links turned the case and all solvency, in addition to sort of our form of model and movements and revolutionary practices versus yours, so proved that it's not just versus the scope versus your app. We have sort of an active orientation towards the university, which is net applicable and net preferable to the app. Now, we're going to be going for the completely conceited aesthetics link. The one he sees political radicalism and use of sonics to access revolutionary change is a product for capitalism to sell. Think of how Nike used calling capitalists protests against police brutality to sell shoes, and how every book at the app sites may reject by epistemic structures, but still gets produced by sort of workers and gets sold on Amazon. Our argument is that capitalism is an overarching structure that signifies the app and the revolution. I'm sure that's what camps and NSD would love to use. For you and your app to make themselves look super progressive, but remember that tournaments charge per entry. Camps cost thousands, and NSD charges membership fees, and your app does nothing to make the sort of more like woke in the sense, but these companies just can make more money. It turns the case, since debate can claim it's radical, progressive, or anti-racist by pointing to emancipatory content like your app, but all that happens is sort of the Asian identity is just turned into an advertisement and content for revenue. It gets commoditized and has no solvency. The one is the diagonal and McDonald evidence is hyper-specific to the app, and it will win us the round, read it after the round. Now, they said commoditization is inevitable. This is wrong, proven by countless empirics, i.e. Libya in the 70s, Italy in the 60s, which was in the evidence. Also, gender rights activists explicitly meant private to organize revolutions in France in the 60s led to massive social change. And even if there is some inevitability for sort of co-option in the academy, the question is why present your story with open arms? The app implications and sort of the link evidence proves that allowing the university to come in and co-opt your literature is net bad and does not solve the impact of your harm. Now, do not want to cross-apply their responses to capitalism critique here. They just made a ton of rumors for why the app is sort of good for capitalism on a generic level or good for dismantling capitalism, but our argument is sort of the hierarchical structures of how the economy argument, how the economy functions, regardless of sort of the emancipatory content of the app, will sort of hypercode it and utilize it against itself. Now, secondly, we're going to go for the speed of least is sad. Participating in revolution and within the space of academia is bad because it ignores ideologies that mediate such discussions, that creates an exclusive form of speedalism that turns the app. Even if your sort of praxis is good, hypervisibility is not good, and paradoxically requires that no acceleration. There's two impacts here that were conceded. One is legitimacy. The movement at the app tries to reproduce its nostalgia for the university, which causes movements to become dependent on systems of capital for validation and extension of fake activism that creates a ruse of solvency, where capitalism on the university is able to use their practices as proof that they're redeemable and productive, which erases the history of their arguments behind it. And also, independently, it turns the app because it reinforces the institutions it critiques and allows infiltration of revolution because the university is able to operate under the guise of radicality. 2 point is militarism. It strays as a straight turn to the app. The structure of debate forces speedalism because it requires a 20-minute discussion of two revolutionary practices where you love shoving arguments that into two impacts. A, it's a false collective that allows the university to operate within the guise of a false ally, which ignores the historical unevenness of the university and sort of your practices, which recreates the sort of bonds the app is talking about. Now, on the Hooped Indite, he is not a cop. He works as a consultation for an organization called the Imaginative Scenario Planning, which is meant to sort of be an equity which is meant to be an equity force for the UK police, even if it's tangentially tied to law enforcement in the UK. It doesn't necessarily matter. He's definitely not a cop, and your mischaracterization of the Hooped evidence was the only response. He didn't actually respond to the actual evidence or the claims Hooped is making, and he didn't actually respond to the claims Hooped is making. The alternative, vote negative to endorse a politics of refusal. You should laugh in the face of the 2 years ethical blackmail to vote app or else something will happen. Instead, vote negative to say that the app would have been better if not introduced into debate. This represents a semiotic blockade to the affirmative society to smoothen the informatic economy of debate with any images of AC. Now, on the perps, no matter how hard they try, their politics will always fail. Voting after is just kicking a dead horse means the permutation is incoherent, and the links are dissets. The permutation winning the form of the app is bad and dies the iteration of including the app content on sort of perm do both. It's a method to debate. They don't get a perm and a false understanding of the critique. We've articulated why the app sort of props up a system which means it can only an unconditional negation of this very space solves or link on permutation double bind. The app on permutation double bind, the size of link of the app is 100% because we're winning that sort of any introduction of their content within the space is bad and recreates their impact, which means it's not sort of a small introduction of the university, but a large introduction of the university, which should take it out. Also, the framework debate, they considered that there's a form versus content distinction. Every one here falls into this trap. Whatever sort of data says matters much less than how they say the content of the app is non-responsive. If they fall into the ruse of the university, the content being radical doesn't mean that the presentation of it within the symbolic political economy is sort of good, that they're going to make a lot of arguments, oh, the app is topical, etc. But these does not sort of skirt the links or the alternative or the form versus content distinction of the app. Our arguments are sort of gaining offense on sort of the sonic acceleration of the app and sort of using that within the university to create social and epistemic change will inevitably fail. Get qualified by university, turn all of your impacts, and all these conceited arguments were definitely not handled. Now, I'll answer I'll answer a few of there are more arguments made on the critique. Don't let them leverage the info dissuasiveness to turn on us. We are not going for info dissuasive, but the information overload doesn't just prove the links to the app. Proving the university comes in and co-ops them. Also, they say also on sort of their second response on the academy, they say sort of academic silence is worse. Links above prove academic silence is not worse. Also, academic silence isn't the alternative. You can be academically silent within that being in the guise of the university. We've made analysis and empirics, i.e. gender revolutionaries in France in the 60s, which prove that as sort of apps in the university, you're still able to radically alter the society without being under the gaze of these sort of hierarchical structures, which the negative critiques, which proves their solvency and proves that none of the responses are actually effective in actually responding to the critique as a whole. So for all these reasons, because there was a conceded link, because Hoop is not a cop, and because like the links turn the app, and it all solves voting.
Starting program.
So he's just going for the all fails. Yeah.
Okay. Damn. That's tough.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was just a game.
Yeah, it looks like it was. He was so scared.
Yeah, I don't know. That's like the easiest pairing.
He was in panic mode.
I know.
Okay, order is after key. Anyone not ready?
The overview to frame this debate is the fact that your authors are cops only. We have carded evidence. They have tried to explain it in a way that is not terminal, that are carded specific about terrorism and crime and how this literally paid to resolve those things that prove someone in CS commodification is way worse than the app. Is there a reason why the academia is unsafe? It's because they are fed a link to every single possible one of their arguments. First, the argument that I'm going to go for is the app outweighs. They have conceded the debate affects subject to view, which means that the reading of this app resolves it. Quote, key cognitive activities, the way sound functions, which means no one easy mistranslation is a way that we can rupture the sonic line, which is a reason as to why you should vote for for us, and the reason why our methodology is good. The alternative is literally nothing, which means that any risk that app has any form of solvency that was conceded in the 2NR means that the mass massively outweighs. Second is that they have conceded that embodied stories are a good form of commodification, even if it is commodification that is good. For example, I got an offer from NSC that is good for me, and the fact that I have the fact that there is violence against me means that as long as I win like commodification is inevitable, then you should prefer embodied stories, because at least that form of commodification is commodification that I'm able to use for my own personal gain. Third is that I have conceded commodification is inevitable, specifically in the context of Asian Americans. Saying that commodification did not happen in the French Revolution is not the same thing as saying that it does not happen to Asian Americans, specifically when there is agenda against Asian Americans. That is all our evidence about sonic color and how its usage justify military intervention in things in places like Vietnam and Korea. Conceded the Vincent Chen example. Vincent Chen was papered over by mass media as someone who's submissive, even though he wanted to fight, which means that only our arguments are contextual to Asian Americans, while their arguments are broad one-line blips that are not explained inside of the 2NR other than saying the words French Revolution. The line proper. They say that companies charge money, entry fees, etc. This argument ignores the way that different people are in debate for different reasons. For example, the 1AC is here in debate to rupture sonics. That's how we achieve solvency, not because that we want to pay money to enter a tournament. They're examples of non-co-opted movements. We have answered them above. Our evidence is just significantly better on terms of specificity because they have conceded it out of the 1AC. That's the Revere evidence. Hypervisibility is good argument. We did not drop this link. We have impact on that link because it says that the 1AC is sonics and the 1AC shapes subjectivities. That was conceded argument, which means that hypervisibility is good for the 1AC because that's the only way that we can export our sonics norms. He has read a spillover argument for us. It's not a reason as to why the app is bad, which means that it touches more people, which affects our scope of solvency. Last argument I have to answer here is the form versus content distinction. First is that if the form is radical, then reading the resolution is good because it is how sonics